My name is NonStopAntonio, and I've been covering The Flash Season 9, and now that it's over, it's time to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because this season was definitely a mixed bag with some good stuff, some pretty bad stuff, and some really rough writing choices that the writers made. So we gotta talk about all of it because, even though this was the final season and a lot of it wasn't amazing, there were still some great moments to talk about. So let's talk about The Flash Season 9. Welcome to NonStopAntonio, where I talk about everything nerdy. I love Marvel, DC, and anime, and if you do too, I hope you enjoy this video. Let's start off on a positive note, and then we'll slowly get worse and worse. We'll start with the good. And right away, I thought this season started off really well. It introduced us to the time loop, which was a lot of fun. It gave us a new Captain Boomerang, which was cool. The Flash versus Captain Boomerang looked really nice as well. Just the visuals looked really cool. And then having that end teaser with Red Death was awesome. It teased this really big threat. However, they fumbled the ball on that one. That one did not go anywhere with Red Death. We'll talk more about that in the ugly. And the bad. I really liked how the season started off with Barry trying to figure out how to learn in the present because he's seen the future, he knows what's gonna happen. And I thought there was a lot of good, character advancement for him because we've seen him advance over all these years. This gave him more to deal with because he's seen what's happening in the future. He's preparing himself and just planning towards that so nothing goes wrong because he's so worried something bad's gonna happen. And I just really like how they dealt with Barry's character in this episode. And even with the Red Death arc being a little mixed, it wasn't terrible, there were still some good moments in it. And Red Death seemed actually menacing, well, until she took off the mask. I didn't have a problem with her being a her, and I think they just wrote her really poorly because it could have still worked if they just did a better job writing the character. But we'll get way more into that when we get to the ugly. Now, of course, when we are talking about the good, we have to talk about episode 9, where Oliver Queen, Wally West, and Diggle all return. Because that was easily one of the best episodes this season, and I loved how they brought Oliver back. Because he came back saving Barry in his own little area on Lian Yu, and I like how they used Lian Yu again, showing that's kind of where his solitude area is, and giving him his own space as the Spectre. And also having him put on the Green Arrow suit again for the final time was awesome. He was still the Spectre, but he said his powers being depleted because of Ramsey, but I liked how they dealt with it, and it's just awesome to see Oliver Queen back. I started with Arrow, so it was just a lot of fun seeing one of my favorite Arrowverse characters on screen again. And the episode just continuously had great Barry and Oliver moments as well, feeling like earlier seasons once again. This felt like an earlier season episode from seasons 1 or 2, and I really liked it. And then we finally got the closure for Oliver and Diggle. I've been waiting for this for so many years because we never got it because of Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they just chose not to have Diggle and Oliver have a moment before Oliver died twice. And I love how they got to say goodbye to each other and talk to one another. Oliver got to find out how his kids are doing, and I just thought it was a really touching moment between best friends, and I really like what they did. The one thing I did wish that they did with this episode was give Wally a suit, but I guess it would have only made sense for Wally to get a new suit is if he did come back in the final, which he did not. And then the final talk of the episode with Barry and Oliver was fantastic. Again, it felt like old times when they're talking, because they even talk about how it was in season 1 when Barry ran to Oliver to tell him about his powers, and Oliver telling him that the lightning chose you, and even Barry saying he's a guardian angel, he's there to make a difference, and that he's there to give people hope, all reminiscing back to season 1 where they had their first initial talk after he got his powers, which again, fantastic. I love the callbacks, and this episode had a lot of callbacks to earlier days with Oliver and Barry, which I miss so much. I loved the yearly crossovers, and it sucks that we didn't get enough of them by the end of it because of COVID. Then we had episode 10, which was the best episode of the season. It was so good, and ironically, it was directed by Eric Wallace, the person who somehow ruined the Flash show in so many ways, but somehow made good decisions. I don't understand how this happened. Barry seeing OG Thawne again was awesome, and then Thawne thinking that it's his gift that he gets to see torment Barry one last time before he kills him, and then having just this whole storyline of Barry running into his parents, having the closure he needed, coming to peace with it, being able to tell his parents how he feels after not seeing them for so many years because they're both dead, and having a really touching moment, even though his parents don't know it's him. It's just so good. And it also kind of explains later on when Henry Allen does see the Flash running around, he kind of realizes that it's his son. And then when Nora is dying and sees season 1 Barry go up to her, she realizes that she had just seen her son again. So it's kind of this really touching moment where a mother had got to see how her son was and heard all the stuff that his son was saying to her. Didn't know it was her son until the final moments where she's like, holy shit, and it all clicked. Oh my god, my son's gonna have this great life. He's gonna have a kid, and it's just really nice. And then it also came to a nice full circle moment at the end where we saw in season 1 where the Flash and saw him reversing. It's not exactly the same, of course. Season 9 Barry took the place of the original timeline Barry, so it was kind of a circle where season 9 Barry had to take the role of the original one to complete that loop, which instead he just didn't disappear, which I think was really well done, and I loved how they dealt with it because they really gave us a great moment. A lot of us were thinking that the season was going to end with them going back to that moment, and they kind of did it, which was awesome. And then Eddie Thawne as Cobalt Blue was fantastic. I really liked Rick Costnet's performance here. Like, having a character from the past come back to be this big villain somehow because the negative Speed Force resurrected him just to go after Barry was perfect. Because it shows how much someone can be corrupted by another force, especially someone who sacrificed themselves to save Barry. He sacrificed himself just to find out that his sacrifice meant nothing because Thawne just kept coming back anyways. So I really like how they dealt with that because it was really easy to corrupt Eddie. What he did meant nothing in the end. Other than just saving Barry in the moment, Reverse Flash just kept coming back and back and back again. So really, Eddie just killing himself did nothing. And I think Rick Costnet just did a great job showing him snap slowly and having the negative Speed Force go after him and target those negative emotions. And then on top of it, the only thing I wish they did more with him was give him more screen time as Cobalt Blue. If there was only half an episode for the final one that just went by really quickly, I think it should have been at least 2 episodes of him being Cobalt Blue, maybe building up the bad guys and going into it, and that probably would have worked out a little bit better, and also just giving us more Eddie and Cobalt Blue. They should have probably started the story like 3 episodes prior. They should have went Red Death arc if they wanted to really do that one, then the Green Arrow stuff, and then straight into the Cobalt Blue for the rest of the season. And then the final episode, even though it was a bit disappointing, it still had fantastic moments, and there was still some really good stuff in it. Like the interaction with all the bad guys coming back. I just love how much of a menace Thawne was, just roasting this shit out of Zoom, Godspeed, and even Eddie just calling him a disappointment. I really liked how they did that, and I thought it was really cool, and I wish we got more of that. It would have been great to see way more villains in this and have them more developed and also not get beat so easily. Like, they really needed more time together, and the moment they came out of the negative Speed Force was awesome. It was like this really badass moment that just led into a not as good fight, but we'll talk about that in the ugly. And then the ending with Barry and his family and just like having this really nice moment was great. I think that should have been an episode on its own where we wrapped up the Flash's storyline. Like, it was nice to see Caitlin back, even though I don't understand why they got rid of her in the freaking first place, because they just brought her back in the very end. But I feel like they should have just did something other than just making her a random character that they got rid of by the end of the season. And it was nice to see baby Nora get born. It's nice to see Barry end on a happy ending, and then having Barry tell baby Nora the impossible and choosing new speedsters was really nice. And I like where they did it because they went back to Ferris era, where it was like where we went in the first season, where Barry learned how to run, and I thought it was a really cool moment. Some people don't understand why you give powers to 3 random people. I think it's more of like the Speed Force pointing him in the right direction for which heroes to choose, just like how the Speed Force chose him, and I thought it was really cool. And then seeing Joe finally propose to Cecile was a touching moment. I don't understand why they didn't do this like 4 seasons ago, and I also thought they were already married, but still, I thought it was a nice moment between characters. Probably not the one we needed to end on, but otherwise, I just like the whole Flash family together. I just wish we had more of the other Flash characters. Cisco, I wish he was able to make it back. Wally, Bart, even Diggle show up because he's helped Barry so many times in the past, or having any other of the Arrowverse characters. I know probably scheduling issues is probably why a lot of these guys didn't come back, or money, but still, I think it would have been awesome to wrap up the Flash show with like a lot of the supporting characters from other shows that have appeared to help Barry over the years, or even just other heroes that we've met over the years as well. And also, before we get into the bad, this season just had so many references to DC Comics and the Arrowverse and past seasons, which I really like, kind of just reminiscing about what has happened over the years and showing us the end of the Arrowverse, like making us remember all the good moments and then ending off what we once were watching for how many years now. Now that we talked about the good, let's go into the bad, because there is a good amount of bad in this as well. And the thing is with the bad, it's not ugly, because there are some more rough moments in this. It's just not as good and probably could have been written better. Now, first of all, the new rogues. Like, I thought the new rogues at first were pretty cool. Captain Boomerang, I liked him. But then I wasn't a big fan of the Fiddler, Murmur, or Chillblame being part of it, mostly because they kind of felt useless. I don't understand what the point of them being there, because they just had Barry with his new rogues, but like, I don't understand why he had them either. Like, I like Pied Piper, but like having Goldface and Hotness in there just seemed unnecessary, and I don't understand why they didn't bring other characters back, like Leo Snark, because what if he got put on Earth Prime with the Ray when the multiverse was reborn after Crisis on Infinite Earth? And then having Golden Glider show up to help him, because Barry has interacted with her in the past and we haven't seen her in a very long time. Heatwave is retired, but he is off the Wave Rider, so it would have been cool to get him to give a hand as well. Just like having characters from the past. And then Grodd's return was also kind of a little disappointing. I really don't understand why they wrote him the way they did, like how Barry sent him off to go find Gorilla City after he helped him. And then in the end, there were no sentient gorillas because of Crisis, and I just don't understand why they chose to write it that way, and why they just didn't give Grodd a nice ending where they sent him to Gorilla City, and then Barry recruited him for his help to fight some big CGI monster. Like, I think that would have been so much cooler than what they did. Like, it was just kind of anticlimactic the way they did it. I think it would have been cool to see a Gorilla Grodd versus King Shark type episode where Gorilla Grodd was actually the hero this time. Maybe not versus King Shark, but like someone else. And then actually being able to see Gorilla City, like a new Gorilla City, would have been freaking awesome. I knew like the CG probably would have costed a little bit too much, but I think it would have been awesome. Like, I feel like there's so many things they could have done that would have been way better than what they actually did. And then we have Keone's storyline. I like Daniel Panabaker. I really like her character over the years. I've loved Caitlin Snow, and I love that she's been in the show for so long. I don't understand why they brought Keone in, just for her to leave at the end of the season and Caitlin to be up here again. Like, was it to make Barry realize that he needed to make balance with the negative Speed Force? Was it just so they had a really OP character so they wouldn't lose to the evil speedsters? Like, I really don't understand what the point of her being there was. Like, I'm happy in the end that Caitlin came back because, again, I really like her character, and I just wish she came back way sooner. The team never mourned her. They literally never mourned her, and then she came back, and at least Barry had a good moment with her at the end of it, but she's a major part of the team, and no one cared. There was no funeral, and it was just like, are we just gonna skip over her death? I don't know. I've been annoyed by that the entire season, and I will stay annoyed by it. Now, the last thing about the bad is Cecile. I really liked the character when she first appeared. Nothing wrong with the actress. I really like her. But the way they wrote her was so dumb. Why did they force her to become a hero? Why did they force her to do all this shit? I didn't mind when she first had empath powers when she was being a lawyer, but then when they started forcing her to be a superhero, I really don't like what they did there. Like, they didn't need to do that. I liked Lawyer Cecile. I liked her role with Joe, and I like them being like supporting characters. We don't need 50 heroes on Team Flash. He's the Flash. He doesn't really need a huge team. And then when we got to the end of the season, like, where did she learn to fly? Like, how did she learn to fly? Like, she's never done it the entire show, and all of a sudden she can do it? Why? And why can't she take on a speedster? Godspeed's supposed to be so freaking fast. She shouldn't be able to think faster than him. And I just don't like how they made her so freaking OP for no reason. Like, they just had such a freaking focus on making Cecile a hero, and this overpowered one at that. I just don't get why they did it, and I'm annoyed by it. And I think most people are the same. Like, I know she gets a lot of hate online. I don't mind Cecile as a character by herself, but for whatever reason, the show just kept forcing her forward and trying to make her like the center spotlight, and I don't get why. Now, because we talked about the bad, let's talk about the ugly. First of all, the Red Death. Like I said, I do not care that it was Batwoman. That was fine. Like, it was okay. It works for the show. It made sense that it was Batwoman. I still think it would have been better if it was Stephen Amell as Oliver Queen. I know it's not comic accurate. I understand that. However, the way Barry and Oliver had their relationship, it was kind of like Barry and Batman in the comics. So it would have made a little bit more sense than what they did. But also, Red Death was supposed to be this big threat that killed all these people. And she did nothing. She did, what? She killed maybe one person? Like, she did literally jack shit for this huge threat she was supposed to be. And then on top of it, they didn't even make her a proper speedster. She just got her speed from her suit, which again, stupid. And unfortunately, the way they wrote her made her just seem like a screaming child throwing a tantrum. And I like the actress. I liked her as Batwoman. I just hate how they wrote her as Red Death. It was so disappointing. She was so much more menacing with the mask on when she took it off. The way the lines were delivered, it just didn't work. I think it would have been fine if they just kept the mask on the entire time, and then they revealed, oh, it's Batwoman. And it'd been like, holy shit, our friend is this villain. And I think it would have been a lot better than what they did. Like, I feel like they really fumbled on this storyline. And then the way it ended was so stupid because Batwoman just comes in, disables her suit, and then kicks her ass. And then on top of it, the most cheesiest line from the entire season from Batwoman, is it always this crazy? And everyone being like, it's a Wednesday. It's like, I can't. It was so bad. Like, who wrote this and was like, that's good. I like that. I don't know, it was kind of annoying. Red Death was disappointment, even though it did start off strong. Now, Chillblaine is also another ugly, because I was never a fan of his character, and I do not understand why they focused so much on him. When Frost died, they should have sent him away. Plain and simple. Like, I don't understand why they kept him around. I didn't like how he turned on Barry, because then when he does redeem himself, like, a perfect redemption would have been him sacrificing himself because of the shit he caused, rather than, oh, I'm okay, I'm living on. And then him being sent off. And when he got sent off, I'm like, okay, good, we're done with Chillblaine. And then he came back to the final and did nothing. He literally did nothing. He only one-shotted Zoom, and he just stood there like, why? Why was he there? I feel like, again, they forced all these side characters on us that really just don't need to be there. They really do not need to be there half the time. The quickest ugly here is the 3 filler episodes. Like, I think the stuff with Becky Sharp was fun, but it did not need to be a full episode. It should have been like a side plot in a main episode. Like, that would have been fine. I just don't understand why they had a full episode on it without Barry. Then we have the one with Dreamer. I really like the Dreamer character. I like Nia now. I liked her from Supergirl, but like, why didn't we have a Dreamer Flash team up? I feel like that would have been so much better than what they did. Like, having her and Iris run around a dream, interesting enough, but I don't think that should have been the entire episode. And I don't understand why they gave her a power upgrade for her just never to show up again. I thought they were giving her a power upgrade for her to come back and help out in the final, but then she never appeared again. Realistically, we should have had a Flash and Dreamer team up. I wanted to see the heroes team up together, not Iris and her just run around in a dream. And then the Partners in Time episode was so freaking stupid. I do not understand why they did that. With just Barry and Iris being stuck there while they're trying to get out. Like, it was so pointless. It did absolutely nothing for the storyline. It was so disappointing. Not a fan. And really, 3 filler episodes were horrible. I'm pretty sure the Becky Sharp one was the worst rated one out of all the episodes ever, because it didn't have Barry or Iris in it, and it just did nothing for the story. Now it's time to talk about the biggest disappointment from the season, and that is the speedster fight, where every speedster was one-shotted. First of all, why the hell was it Team Flash and not the Flash family fighting the evil speedsters? Cecile, Allegra, and Keone and Mark did not need to be there. We needed Bart, Wally, Jay, and honestly, if Jessie Quick somehow was able to make it back, or like a new version of her, that would have been perfect. Like Nora versus Savitar, I liked it at first. It's like her getting revenge for her family, but I do not understand why she was able to stab him through the back of his suit with his own weapon. I don't mind the phasing part, that's okay. You know, you think she has different powers than Barry. She's learned some new stuff from her father in the future. That's cool. However, she just defeated Savitar with one shot. Savitar got wrecked for no reason. It took an entire season to defeat this guy. Like, it took an entire season to defeat all these speedsters, and they all got one-shotted, which, again, makes no sense, especially because now they have a power upgrade from the negative speed force. And like I said earlier, Godspeed versus Cecile, I hate it so freaking much. They turned Cecile into this OP superhero for whatever freaking reason, and Godspeed just got taken out so dumb. Like, he just get one-shot over and over and over again. She's going like this. Like, why? Why was that even a thing? Then Allegra versus Reverse Flash. Thawne has been the biggest villain out of the entire freaking show, and then Allegra just one-shots him with, like, a Nova Blast. Like, why was that even a thing? And Thawne, he just went to with Chester. What was the point of messing with Chester? He could have literally done anything else, but he chose to go after Chester, which, again, makes no freaking sense. Realistically, Thawne should have went after the other villains. That way, he could have Barry to himself. Would have made so much more sense than what they did. And the only reason Keone versus Zoom made sense was because Keone is so freaking OP. She's a literal goddess, a force of nature, holds energy and sends it right back. But they did Zoom so freaking dirty. Like, so dirty. He comes back, has actual speed force powers this time, and then just gets slapped with one shot. Literally, all the speedsters got done so freaking dirty. I do not understand why they even brought him back. We wanted this whole episode to be this epic speedster fight, and no, they just messed it all up. Now that we talked about the ugly, I feel like we should talk about what should have been, because there are definitely stuff that we all wanted that we didn't get. Speedsters versus speedsters. With that whole speedster fight, it should have been the Flash family versus the evil ones, not Team Flash. We should have had Zoom versus Jay, because in season 2, Zoom kept Jay hostage the entire time. Then Savitar versus Wally, because of everything that happened between the two characters during season 3, with Savitar manipulating Wally to getting him out of the Speed Force and speeding up his powers. Then Bart versus Godspeed, because of everything that happened in the future with Bart and Godspeed. Because Godspeed was Bart's Thawne. He killed Jay in the future. It was this big storyline, and then it would have made way more sense for them to go after each other. And then Barry versus Cobalt Blue. Obviously, because it's Eddie and Barry. And then you would have had Thawne come in later. Because after Thawne versus Nora, Thawne tries to betray all the other bad guys after knocking Nora down and then trying to take down Barry himself. Like, I feel like that would have made more sense. You might be wondering why I would say Nora versus Thawne. I would say because Nora technically has a grudge against him, and we've got first introduced her. That first version of Nora was being manipulated by Thawne to go back into the past and manipulate the timeline for his own deeds so he could come back into his full speed with the Cadus dagger tied to his chest, which ended up erasing that first version. But I feel like it would have been a cool moment for her to get revenge for the first version of herself by fighting Thawne, but then ultimately losing for Thawne going after Barry. Like, I just think there's so much stuff they could have done with this character that they just failed to do. And then Cobalt Blue just, again, needed more episodes. I think I've said that like 3 times now, but he needed more episodes. What was the point of making Eddie Cobalt Blue? For him to be Cobalt Blue half an episode, and then for him to shake with Barry and be fine. He needed time to be fleshed out as a villain rather than just rushing into it and then ending it. Then also, Caitlyn shouldn't have been taken away at all. She should have just stayed as Caitlyn the entire season, because there was literally no point to Keone. She did some cool stuff this season, but like her plot point, literally you could pull him out and it wouldn't have been a problem. And I know scheduling was difficult, but I think it would have been really awesome to see Cisco, Kara, Ralph, Bart, and just any of the legends show up. Would have been perfect. I understand why they couldn't have Cisco. They already said they had scheduling problems, but they should have done like a FaceTime with him at least at the end of the episode. That's all we needed. Kara's a little bit harder because I know Melissa's a mom now, and I don't know what she's doing acting wise, but again, it would have been cool to have Supergirl appear once. Having Barry, Oliver, and Kara show up in an episode would have been a great send-off for the Arrowverse. Then having Ralph show up, I wanted that. Honestly, even if they changed the actor and brought Ralph back that way, it would have been cool. Because they said his face got melted. Why didn't they just bring him back with a new face? With Sue, that would have been great. And then the Legends showing up would have been great, because Eric Wallace literally said if they had more episodes, they would have finished off Legends, Which, why did they make 3 freaking filler episodes? They could have made those 3 filler episodes Barry going to the future to save the Legends from being imprisoned, and then having the Legends help him with something else. So I don't understand, oh, we didn't have time. Bullshit. Why did you make 3 filler episodes that did nothing for the plot? But with that, let me know what you think The Flash should have done for their final season and what you would have wanted to see to make it even better. Now time for my final thoughts. The final season had a lot of big disappointments, and there was still a lot of stuff they could have done that would have made it so much better, and I don't understand why they made the decisions they did. I understand that the network probably only gave them this many episodes, they only gave them so much money, but I feel like they probably could have made something work. And I think this season had the biggest potential wasted because they showed us what they could do. They showed us how good the show could be. Literally, they had some fantastic episodes this season, yet they didn't make all the episodes like that. Like episode 9, episode 10, even episode 1 were amazing. And then they fumbled it everywhere else. Grant Gustin is a great Flash. I've been watching him since he appeared in Arrow in 2013. So I love this actorism, and he does such a great job. He's always been a highlight of the show. I never really have anything against him. It's usually just how the writers write everyone around them that I have a problem with. And it just sucks that the show is over. It's kind of like bittersweet. Like, I have had my problems with the show, but I have been watching it for so freaking long. And even with the bad, there's still good episodes within that. It just sucks to see the Arrowverse over. Like, I know Superman and Lois is still going on, but it's not really in the Arrowverse like the other shows are. And I only wish that the Flash final season got a great season like Arrow, because Arrow had such a good final season. I just wish the Flash also had one that was equally as good. But even though the Flash is over, hopefully we will see Grant Gustin suit up again in either a multiverse story or something else. And I'm looking forward to seeing what could happen with the Flash in the future. I am kind of curious to see how the Flash movie is going to be, but we'll talk about that when it comes out. What did you think were the good, the bad, and the ugly? Or do you disagree with any of my points? Or do you have anything to add? Let me know down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you leave a like and hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all my DC videos, Marvel, and anime. If you want to see any of my Flash breakdowns from this season, I'll have a link in the description, also at the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.